Do the show tomorrow, and then a podcast tomorrow at 1. Then I'm back to Philly.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that you lived up in that area.
Yeah, just bought a house, so I have the inspectors coming Wednesday morning.
Congrats.
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking stoked, man.
Good, man. I don't have to tell you, you've done this before.
Yeah, the less I know, the better it is, because then I'll script it and I'll fuck it up.
Well, when it comes to podcasts, I really don't have a script. I'm just talking about, you ain't gonna break this thing.
Yeah, I'll just run it.
About right here is usually good. Check.
Yep. 1 2 1 2 3 3 2 1. Yep. Here I am.
Beautiful.
Comfortable chairs. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, you got the big green squishy chair.
I like it. Hopefully, you gave Tim the most uncomfortable fucking chair in the joint. God willing.
He says that it's comfortable, but it's ridiculous. All right, man. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. I've been doing podcasts for a little bit, and I've been trying my best to do a little bit of research, and I found that Bucky Lasek was like a big mentor of yours.
Yeah,
and
I have his name tattooed somewhere around here.
They get
somewhere.
lost, right? Yeah, and Bucky Lasek was a kind of like an idol of mine growing up as a skater, and the whole Tony Hawk and Birdhouse crew was like a big inspiration for me. So I thought maybe we would just kind of start off with like a commonality with skateboarding. I know what skateboarding meant to me growing up, and like how much peace I found just hitting the pavement every day and just skating under the lights. What was that like for you as a kid in your life?
You know, for me, skateboarding did for me then what drugs and alcohol did for me later.
What it turned into? Yeah, me too.
Like, you could put me in a room with the prettiest women, people that I was not in their bracket or caliber of. And as long as I had my skateboard, I felt like I belonged, and I did not care who looked at me or what they thought of me.
I understand completely. Even just having it in my hand.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I could just go places, and I knew who I was better. If I had a skateboard.
It was a form of identity. It was my sense of belonging. It was my sense of living. It was my calling, and my story, but at the age of 7, when I got my first skateboard, my mother put me to bed that night, and she said, "Brandon, what do you want me to do with the skateboard?" I said, "I want it in bed with me." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I die, I want it to go with me." Because I knew at that very moment, that very day I got that skateboard, that I was going to be a professional skateboarder. No, like plan B, trait, or option. That was it. Much like the skill I possessed then, which carried over to addiction later.
Sure.
Despite any and all adverse consequences that came my way, I did what I had to do to get what I wanted to get. And at 16, I became a professional skateboarder.
You touched on something there, which I think is, which I always find very fascinating. And it's kind of this concept of like obsession, right? In a weird way, being like really obsessed with things has kind of worked for me, like as a positive in my life, but also when it comes to addiction, like it was really turned into like a negative. It sounds like what you're saying is you made up your mind that you were going to be a pro skater and that you were going to do it like no matter what it took,
at all costs.
And that was just what was going to happen.
Yes.
Like, would you say that that's a fair assumption of your personality?
Yeah. And doing the work that I've done on myself, what I realize now is that, you hear it all the time. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And my whole deal is spirituality. And I believe God is everything. I believe God is heroin. I believe God is alcohol. I believe God is skateboarding. I believe it's these hallmark cliche sayings, but like, if I didn't go what I went through, I would not be who I am today, which is a child of God.
Sure.
And I'm very good to his children, which are my brothers and sisters.
You seem like this way of life, even just the few minutes that I've gotten to know you.
Yeah.
It seems like you really, really believe in the stuff that you're saying. Like, it's had the recovery and your connection and your spirituality is like a real part of your personality now.
It is, because I was beaten so fucking bad. I was demoralized in just such a fashion from drugs and alcohol, beaten into a state of reasonableness to like, you know, in my story, I was the alcoholic that wanted to kill himself, but I didn't want to hurt myself in the process.
Sure.
I was horrible with suicide because I kept waking up.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I never did to get another bag was homicide. And it's not because I don't believe in that, which I don't, but like the opportunity just never presented itself.
Yeah,
so what I'm trying
to do.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is like I've been to the depths of hell.
Sure.
So like I know for me, at the end of my run, my mother had exhausted all opportunities, options, and resources. She had sold 3 homes to financially pay for me to go to treatment. She had nothing left to give, and she went to God with one prayer, and that prayer consisted of, God, please cure him, or kill me because I can't take it anymore.
Wow.
So having gone through that, like, and I've tried everything to get sober. And I'm a really creative fella. I think outside the box 24/7. I don't really conform to the quote unquote normal.
I got that vibe about you.
That I tried everything to get sober, whether it was moving to Finland, moving to Paris, moving to London, moving all throughout the country, changing women, changing careers, changing homes. You name it, I've tried it.
Wow.
You know, the maintenance, to this, to that. And what I realized is like, I am not powerful enough to lift my obsession or rid me of the desire to want to drink or drug. And you're looking at a guy who shot heroin and cocaine for 21 years, drank, drugged, smoked, sniffed, ate for 25.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, I can't think of a way right now as I sit in this chair talking to you of how I could have one glass of wine and it would turn out different because I fucking tried it all. You know, this was the last house on the block and I didn't even want to come here when I got here. I just had no other options.
Yeah.
I was beaten. Fucking reasonable.
You know what really strikes me when you say this, and this is kind of like a testament to a lot of people that I know in recovery, when you say that 20 something years you were using actively and you stand in front of me. Yeah, I'm sorry, that thing's
that's
like
cool.
in front of your face, but
you
look like a really healthy guy and your eyes are bright and you seem like you have a good understanding as like who you are and what you're talking about. I find it really incredible. Aside from like the first couple weeks or months when like you're coming off of it, you know, like how quickly your body and your spirit and like your sense of purpose can kind of rebound once the madness is just like removed from your life.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a lot. And I always find like real hope in that with, see people come in. I mean, when I came in, I'm skinny enough as it is. And I was like 20 pounds underweight, you know,
Sure.
It was in rough shape. We're all in rough shape. And
I didn't get here because life was great.
Yeah, you know?
Or I had too much money or this or that.
Yeah, but you look really healthy.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I'm 38 years old now. Now I go to the gym. I jog 3 miles every morning. I do all this cardio. I make a conscious effort to eat better. I don't eat great.
That's really important, though.
You know, it is.
Eating better is
because
really
when I went to treatment this last time, I was beaten so, I hate to keep saying that, I was beaten so bad that I was willing to do I had that gift of desperation, that God moment, G-O-D, gift of desperation. I had that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with that came a side of willingness unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I remember them telling me every other time, if you eat better, you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was willing to do whatever it took because I was so bad off that in treatment, in detox, I did something that's kind of unheard of. I cut out sweets. I cut out sodas in detox where my receptors are craving that shit.
Sure.
I cut it all out because like the willingness was there and I just didn't want to feel like I felt. And lo and behold, they weren't lying to me. I started feeling better.
Yeah.
Just by eating better, you know, and that just kind of snowball affected.
You mentioned a few times like that moment, what it took. I don't know if you can recall, because when I recall, there was a few moments, but off the top of your head, like, do you remember it when like you actually said to yourself that this was enough, or do you think it was like a cumulative thing?
There was a collective chain of events that had taken place to land me there, but the one major one for me, and I'll never forget it, I'm 38 years old. I'm living back in my mother's house. Former professional skateboarder, first skateboarder ever to be endorsed by Gatorade, flying out to Chicago, hanging out with Michael Jordan, designing my pro model for Powell Peralta, been in those movies Jackass, which broke box office records several times over, New York Times selling author, millionaire a few times over by the ages of 23, 24. At the age of 35, right, a fairly successful individual, did things in life that people equate to success or happiness and some even dream of doing. At the age of 35, I'm back at my mother's house. I just got off life support for 7 days. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. My mother bought me a plot, and my worldly possessions, all that I own, despite all of that successful shit that I had done in my life, at 35 years old, I'm held up at my mother's house. My worldly possessions consist of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant that fits into a bag that doubles as my pillow. And I leave the house once a day to go buy $180 worth of heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
And I went back there because it was around the time when the police killed that young black man, Freddie Gray, in Baltimore City. My mother lives about 12 blocks from where that event transpired. And she called me and she was terrified. She said, Brandon, can you come take care of me? They were burning blocks down, burning, you name it, they were doing, looting, robbing, stealing, burning blocks down, burning police cars down. It was like the movie The Purge. There was a 10 o'clock curfew. Everyone was off the streets. The National Guard was on each corner with their machine guns and their tanks. And she said, can you come take care of me? My intentions were to take care of that woman. That is nothing I wouldn't do for her. My actions dictated. I went down. I went up in this bedroom. And I would leave once a day from that bedroom. Every morning I'd wake up at 4:30 on the dot, because that's when my disease told me to get up.
Told you to get
up. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I would sneak down the stairs. I would step on each stair real quietly, because I knew if I stepped in the wrong place and it made a noise and she woke up and said, Brandon, can you make me something? I fucking can't, Mom.
Yeah.
It's not personal. It's business. And I would get down to the bottom of the stairs and I would army crawl, because she had now taken to sleeping on the couch, because she was so in fear that I was going to burn her house down smoking. I would army crawl over to her purse. One hand would grab the purse. The other hand would grab the bell that she attached to her purse. And I would move it to me really close, because God forbid that bell made a noise. And she said, Brandon, what are you doing? Don't fucking ask me. Don't. And I would get that purse, steal $180, and I would go buy the dope and the coke. I would come back to that house. I literally couldn't load the needle up with another drop of water because the plunger would come out. Prior to this, it was great. Because what would happen is I would do a shot of heroin and cocaine, and that delusional effect produced upon each shot, which would allow me to escape the reality for which I had created for myself, would set in. So I was okay with being homeless. I was okay with selling my body to men on the corner. You name it, I was okay. Put that shot at me, I escaped the reality that I create, and it's cool.
Sure.
But what do I do at 35 years old? I've given everything to that $10 substance. It no longer answers my call. I've given everything to it. I can't load the needle up anymore. I can't shoot up any more dope and coke. That delusional effect is no longer being reproduced, which means I can't escape the reality that I've created for myself. And I'm not happy with this. Yeah. It stopped working. Fuck.
Yeah.
I get chills thinking about it.
So do I. And I'm pretty young and I've been sober for a little while, enough to where, I don't have drug dreams really anymore. What's it like for you, for somebody that's in like a relatively public domain, to be able to talk about these things that are like so personal and, relatively graphic, and not something that people necessarily talk about on the dinner table, however, is very, very much a part of reality for like millions and millions of people. Like the stuff that you're saying is happening everywhere all the time, but there's still, I don't like the word stigma, honestly. I think that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but there's still like an apprehension to acknowledge the fact that this kind of stuff happens.
Sure.
What is it like for you to talk about that?
Dude, for me, it's so easy, because my life is literally an open book. Like literally, for real. You could buy it. You can, I was on the Howard Stern show, and I talked about how I tried to bang my mother out one time because I was coming off a Xanax withdrawal, and she had to lock me in a bedroom, and I woke up and I thought it was just some random woman. You know what I mean? So like, there is no secrets in my closet. Like there's nothing off the table. So I hear people talking about, oh my God, the 4 steps terrifying. Like, fuck, read my book. You can hear all of it, and I'll tell you anything else you want to know. Yeah. Like the pain of being not honest, secretive, ultimately shooting dope again far exceeds like, whoa, what will you think of me? Dude, because my situation is serious, right? I suffer a fatal disease, right? Left untreated, if I'm diagnosed as an addict or an alcoholic, which I've been diagnosed a million times over by a million different fucking entities. Yeah, me too. I'm diagnosed with that disease. That disease left untreated equals death. Right. And I have a healthy fear of it because I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've died so many times. It's insane. like it's cool, man. Because what I know is my fatal disease is the only disease that tells me I don't have a disease on a daily basis. So follow me. You diagnose me with HIV, I'm rushing to the hospital to get medication. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me with cancer. I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me as an addict or an alcoholic. I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out what the fuck's wrong with you for diagnosing me with said disease.
Yeah.
Just as fatal as the first two diseases, but left to my own devices. Talk about this, the Sud Talks. Left to my own devices, meaning Brandon attends Brandon's Anonymous, Brandon sponsors Brandon, and Brandon's God. I will get up from this interview and go right to the pub and have a glass of wine because I'm convinced that I don't have a disease, and it will play out different now because I'm employable. I have a schedule. I have some money. I have things. I have insurance. You know, so it's cool. You know, but I suffer from a disease that's called alcoholism, not alcoholism. And I can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. I have a few simple things I do along the way each day to maintain my sobriety.
What are those things?
They told me in treatment, stick to the basics, kids. So God willing, you have to go back. So mine are very simplistic. Yeah, I wake up, I make my bed immediately.
So do I.
That's the first thing I do. Yeah. And then I get on my knees and I pray. And then I get in the shower, I get ready, and then I meditate for 10 minutes. I'm not like one of those 5-hour right out of the gate meditators. And this isn't, the meditation is not every day, but just when I can. And then I have a cup of tea and I kind of process things and I just go, you know, but I've also learned, like, when I want to make my God laugh, I tell him how my day is going to go. So like, I don't, you know, you know, it's all okay. It's cool because I'm not shooting dope or drinking.
Is there anything about it that was it all just a bad time? When I look back on it, there was a lot of really, really great memories that I have. And I think it's important for people to like acknowledge that, because I wouldn't have done it if like it wasn't doing something for me. Right. Where do you think is like that line that eventually just got crossed to where it wasn't really just fun and games anymore? It turned into a real problem.
Dude, I've had some phenomenal times. I did things in active addiction that people would dream of doing, you know, literally, with the people, with the places, with the things. I'm not going to get into names, places, or events, but like I've did some stuff, man, and party with like house or whatever. But for me, what happens is I got to this point where I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, right? And I'm not part of that 10% that can, that 90% out there that can drink with immunity. You know, I can't do that. And what happened was, but I have such a delusional mind, and I really was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, because, right, I'm doing Jackass, and then I'm doing these appearances at nightclubs, and they'd say, all right, Mr. Novak, what would you like on your rider in your green room? And I'd say, I need some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. They would give me those substances. I would take pictures. I would sign autographs. And at the end of the night, I would get a check for $10,000. Now it's literally my job to get high. But then I keep going to these meetings. You people tell me my life's unmanageable. I believe my life is unmanageable, but my bank account seems pretty fucking manageable. But what happens is, like, knowing what I know now that I didn't know then, is I was trying to fill this internal void with the external solution. So as long as the woman was pretty enough, the home was big enough, the account was high enough, and the car was new enough, and you told me those things, that had to validate to me that I was doing well. And really that just wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. But my process took what it took until it took.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of times where it should have took, where I really wanted to get clean. I really did. But my disease is so powerful that I was willing to do what it took in the beginning, and then I would get a shower, I would get a few meals under me, I could write a cognitive letter that made sense, and I could send it home to my people, and they say, we love you, we believe in you. I equate that to $10 more, and then it's wash, rinse, repeat.
Man, I remember that feeling so well. I remember waking up saying to myself, I'm gonna get through the whole day. I'm just gonna try to get one day, and feeling like pretty strong about it. And then usually around like 11, I think it's different. I think addiction is addiction. I think there's something particularly difficult about opiate addiction, just because of like the withdrawal that comes into it. I think similarly with alcohol. You know, alcohol is really like in many ways the most destructive one, that has the most ease and accessibility to get.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is you were bringing me down that memory, and I could just picture so vividly. The last time I had clean, I was living in Northeast Philly. I was living right off of Cottman Avenue, Cottman and Shelton. And it was just in that room where I just decided, like, I can't do this anymore. And that moment and what it meant to me was such like a catalyst in my life that put me on like this new trajectory. And truth be told, I haven't really revisited that moment in my mind up until talking to you, because I can see you when you talk about it. Like, it's still very, very clear in your head. I think it's so important to keep that in the forefront of your mind. And it seems to me like you really, really have it there. Like,
I'm big on that. I'm big on that because I've seen me personally, my experience dictates, as sure as the day is long, when I forget where I come from, I do return, right? Because then, going back to the whole spirituality concept we were talking about a little while ago, when I start achieving these things, these accolades of life and hard work and successes, all of a sudden I'll believe that I'm responsible for this and I'm the almighty and I'm so powerful that I can do this. And my brain, my delusional alcoholic brain, will minimize the use that my disease takes me down or the places that it takes me down. And I'll say that it'll be a little different because see, I have selective memory when it comes in, when it plays in favor of my alcoholism, you know, meaning that I can tell you about 7 years back, Halloween night, going to Ram's Head Pub in Westchester and having 2 glasses of wine and being home in bed by 9 p.m. I could tell you what bar stool I sat on. I can tell you the barkeep's name. I can tell you the music that was playing in the jukebox. Why? Because I promised my then fiance, now ex, that I was going to do it and be home in bed by 9, and I did it. I can fucking recall that like I'm touching this cup right now. But my brain will allow me to block out being medevac to 4 different hospitals in 4 different states from 4 different overdoses. It'll allow me to block out sleeping in an abandoned house on Christmas Eve, and I'm freezing. All I have on is a white t-shirt, and I got to pull it over my knees and pull my hands in my shirt and my head in my shirt, because that's the only heat I can produce. My brain will allow me to block that out because that does not play in favor of my disease. My thing is serious, man.
You've talked about your concept of spirituality a lot. Do you mind sharing like what it is that you actually believe in? I think that's something that a lot of people really struggle with. And I think specifics like help.
You know, I wish I could say I have a specific. I believe mine's called God. And what I do know is that it's a power much greater than me, much greater than anything, and anybody that thinks my opinion personally, and this is my opinion, so it doesn't mean shit, but anyone that is arrogant enough to think that they understand what God's will is so underselling themselves. Like, dude, the closest that I've came up to understanding what my higher power, my God's will is to treat his children, my brothers and sisters, the way that we should be treated. That's the closest I can even grasp. And I don't even know if I'm even touching it barely.
No, I think that's like a healthy mind frame to have, because when you're trying to define it, I think you're like limiting what the possibilities
putting caps
are.
on it, man.
And especially because like my little pea brain, like what could I possibly understand about something like so
dude, it's insane. It's and that's just my opinion. That's how I look at it. But I always say, like, I didn't choose to come here today. Yes, I put the actions behind getting here, but I, you know, a power greater than myself saw fit for our stars to align and our paths to cross and us be right here, right now. Meaning that something major is happening, but I have no clue what it is.
Yeah, and you don't have to understand.
No, I don't. And as long as I stay out of the way of it, I'll be all right.
That was a real big relief for me to actually be able to sit back in a chair and be like, you know what, I don't have to get all of this, because I'm always like really trying to figure all that out. You know, like, why is this happening? What's the point? What's the purpose? And I live like a much simpler life with like a lot less anxiety once you just sort of are able to roll with things and let it happen.
That's why I could never like successfully complete treatment or meetings for that matter, because I was too smart for my own good, and I would go in and I would outthink myself out of that seat. Yeah,
you're a pretty intelligent guy too. I can tell even just sitting across from you, like you're super articulate.
Thanks,
and you
man.
can tell that there's just a lot moving up there.
Yeah, you know, but so what I've realized now is like I debated for a lot of years and I shot heroin for a lot of years. So like If this microphone keeps you sober, have at it. This is not a one size fits all. If that were the case, I would have got sober at my first treatment center at 17. Didn't get it till my 13th at 35. Who's to call what's right or wrong?
I'm totally with you. Being a part of Sober Nation and like seeing all of these different stories and all these ways that it's all happened has really opened my eyes to that. Because when I first came in, like you're just doing what other people tell you to do, and so you sort of just have this idea like this is what works. I'm gonna stick to it. But you know, I'm a pretty open-minded person, and over the last couple of years especially, like I've seen all different types of ways that people kind of have that aha moment and sort of kick the habit. I think for me, when it comes to the spirituality, something that really, really helped me was just like the concept of energy. You know, like how you talk about like, even because I'm like a science thinker kind of guy. And even when you get down to that level, like everything in the universe can be broken down into either matter or energy. And even those things are like interchangeable. So at some point, like it all just
action, reaction, the whole deal. Yeah. You know, thank God God's God and I'm not God, because I would fuck it up. You know, and when my mother went to the church across the street and she told Father Mike said, Miss Pat, how's Brandon doing? She said, he's never been worse. There's nothing I can do to help him. So I went to God with a prayer. Father Mike said, oh yeah, Miss Pat, what's that prayer? She said, Father Mike, it's real simple. The prayer consists of God, please cure him, kill him, or kill me. And Father Mike looked at my mother, and for the first time in his life, he screamed at her. He said, how dare you go to God with something like that for your son? Because here's the deal. God has a plan for your son. I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. And Brandon doesn't know what it is. And thank God I didn't know what it was, because I would have fucked it up royally. Short, right? Yeah. I would have made it left when I should have made it right. I would have went above it when I should have went through it. You know what I mean? I just got out of my own way, because what I've understood is that my very best thinking has got me to walk into my 13th treatment center at 35 years old. But now my defects have become my biggest assets.
How so?
Because my mentality will create the reality for which I live in. And when I got the treatment, they said, change your perception, change your world. Okay. And that's it. So how am I viewing things? What's my take on the matter? It's kind of fucking simple for me. Yeah, I think the notion that perception is reality is like a really, really powerful thing, because there's a million different ways to look at something. And like, I think that you can choose or pull power from something to have like a positive outlook on anything, which can, you know, change the course of your day or your life or whatever. I'm curious, because this was something that I can relate to a lot. What are things like now with you and your family? Dude, never, ever, ever better. You know, I had a sister. It feels good, right? Yeah. I'm going to Poland with my mother. I'm taking her to Poland. Are you Polish? Polish and Irish, yeah. Cool. December 4th through the 14th. Her birthday is the 13th. Mine's the 10th. So I'm going with her and the Polish home. All like the retired elderly people, you know, with the 25 little old ladies I'm going to Poland with. Yeah. That's so cool. And I bought her, bringing her down here to see Rod Stewart. She loves Rod Stewart. I bought her front row tickets. He can still really sing. Yeah, he's killing it, man. Crazy. The coolest thing, so I took her on a cruise not too long ago, right? Because for 76 years, my mother has done everything in this world to try to help her son. You name it, she's done it. And like, now that I finally, God willing, grasp this thing for today, how dare I be like, all right, Mom, thanks, but I'll see you when you see. That doesn't mean that's not me. So I take her on this cruise. She really wants to go on a cruise. I'm not a cruise guy. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like to be a prisoner or captive of anything. So we're on this cruise, and I'm just whatever. So there's this art show, and there's this painting that comes up. And I don't know why I've never thought to ask in her time of living what her favorite animal is. And it's this painting of two giraffes. She said, Brandon, that's my favorite animal. Giraffe? Yeah. So it's a giraffe, and these two giraffes in a painting. And I buy this painting without her knowing. And this is about 9 months. This is maybe about 9-10 months ago. And we're in international waters, so they have to ship it back. I can't carry it home. And 3 or 4 months go by after I've bought this thing. I can't tell her to look out for it because then she'll know I ruined the surprise. And literally Christmas Eve at 10:30 at night, she gets a knock on the door, and it's that.
Wow.
And that, like, those are the things that I didn't work hard for my seat, right? I'll tell you who worked hard for my seat in recovery: my mother, my loved ones, my employers, my friends, society. They worked hard. They got me the seat here. If justice was due, I'd be dead years ago, you know? So, like, that's my favorite thing of recovery or sobriety, seeing those relationships mended. That's because now, for once, I'm a son to my mother, I'm a brother to my brother, a brother to my sister, an uncle to my nieces and nephews, and I show up, and I don't ask for a fucking thing. Fully self-sufficient.
Showing up is way more important than I think. Sometimes I think that's really all it takes.
Yeah.
Just be where you say you're going to be when you say you're going to be there. And you can get, in terms of just building relationships, and even if you want to go as far as, like, you know, your career or whatever, showing up can get you really, really far.
Yeah.
What are you up to now? What's going on in Brandon's life?
See, this morning I was I'm here in Florida. I spoke at the Sud Talks Saturday. I did that, and then today I did NBC Channel 6 News in Miami, promoting my book that came out a few months ago. I work with Banyan Treatment Center. My title is I'm a national business developer. I don't know what the fuck that is. What I do, I don't know what I think, but what I do is I help whoever, however, whenever, because here's the reality. 99% of the people that call me, they say, Novak, if you can get clean, there's no reason why I can't. Can you help me?
Sure.
So if I can use who I was prior to sobriety, in sobriety, to get through to the people that can't see past that bag, bottle, or pill because they've built the wall up so deep, high, and thick that I know about because I've seen me do for years. If I can get through that and allow them to become open and receptive to me, then by all means, my defects have become my assets.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see things happen in this way when people just get out of their own ways and see like how quickly life can turn around. Hey, look, man, you're a fascinating guy. I could have this conversation with you for a long time. I know that you probably got a lot of places to go. I really, really appreciate you coming in here.
Thank you.
Before we sign off, where can they find your book? What's a place that people can follow you?
You can find my book anywhere they sell books. You can follow me on Brandon _ Novak is Instagram, and I don't know what the rest of them are, but I'm just out there. You'll find me. If it's meant for you to find me, you'll find me. Or if you're trying to get away up and out of this situation that you found yourself in and you don't believe it's possible, my phone number is 610-635-9092. You can call me personally, and I'll walk you through this process. Wow. Because here's the deal, man.
That's a big move.
The disease of addiction is not a death sentence, and your history does not have to dictate your future. And as long as you're breathing, it's never too late. I mean that with everything that I love.
It's the words to live by, man.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate you coming in here. Seriously, it was a pleasure to talk to you. I got a lot of speaking to you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I enjoyed this, man.
Yeah, likewise.
You're a good interviewer.
Thank you. I'm just making this up as I go along.
That's the best way. It is. Fuck scripts.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the show and the podcast. Please give me a like, a subscribe. It's the best thing you can do to support the show. I appreciate you guys. If you need me, it's Tim, Tim, at SoberNation.com. Once again, help me thank Brandon. Thanks, my friend.
Yeah, likewise, man. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
That was.